Okay, next is for base. Now what is a base? You need to know that base and alkaline are not the same thing. You will learn now. So what is a base? For base and alkaline, you have to remember two definitions. One is base. What is a base? It's a chemical substance that neutralizes an acid to produce salt and water only. This definition you have learned in your form 2. Okay, any base reacts with an acid, you will get salt and water, and that process is known as neutralization. Okay, example of base. What are example of base? It is metal oxide, metal hydroxide, metal carbonates. Metal react with the oxygen, metal react with the hydroxide, metal react with the carbonate. So for example, copper oxide, magnesium oxide, sodium oxide. Copper hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide, copper carbonate, magnesium carbonate. So anything to do with metal with all these three are base. Okay, so if this base react with any acid, they get salt and water, which we will learn in neutralization later. So now what is the difference between base and alkaline solutions? Base cannot dissolve in water, they are not soluble, whereas alkali, they are soluble in water. So what is the definition of alkaline? An alkaline solution is a chemical substance that dissociates into hydroxide ions when dissolved in water. If you notice, it's the same thing like acid, just the difference is for acid is hydrogen ion, for alkaline is hydroxide ion. So must remember this definition. Now, base and alkaline solution actually gives you the same chemical properties, nearly the same chemical properties. But the only difference is alkaline, they are soluble, base, they are not soluble. Okay, so you have learned in your mathematics about subsets, right? So this is how it looks like. Base is the bigger picture, whereas alkaline is the smaller one, the one that dissolves in water. So all alkaline are base, but not all base are alkaline. Okay, this is like mathematical subset things. Okay, now I need you to know what are the examples of alkali, because if I ask you to memorize the example of base, you will just die, because there is a lot. There's a lot. You just study smart, memorize the examples of alkaline solution. So anything to do with sodium, meaning it can be sodium hydroxide, can be sodium oxide, sodium carbonate. They are all alkaline because when I dissolve in water, they can dissolve, they are soluble. Anything to do with potassium, so it's potassium oxide, hydroxide, and potassium carbonate, they are all alkaline because they can dissolve in water. Anything to do with ammonium, ammonium hydroxide, ammonium oxide, ammonium carbonate, and calcium hydroxide. All these people are soluble in water. They are soluble in water. So when they are soluble in water, they will produce hydroxide ion, and this will give alkaline property. It means here, an alkali will only show alkaline properties in presence of water. If you don't understand what I'm talking about alkaline properties, as simple as it changes the red litmus paper to blue. That is the kind of property. It is corrosive in nature. If you just take an alkali pour in your hand will burn. And that's the kind of properties that I'm talking. Later on, in the next lesson, I'll teach you more properties. Okay, so an alkali will only show the properties when in presence of water. Why? Because in presence of water, there is hydroxide ion. So let's say I take an ammonia. This ammonia is a molecule. When I dissolve in water, what happens is it forms this. So this will give alkaline property. When I dissolve in water, what happens is, remember ionic compounds, these are all ionic compounds. How I know all these are ionic compounds? Metal and non-metal. Metal and non-metal. When they dissolve in water, they form this. So all this gives you the alkaline property. It ionizes. Can you see here it's in the form of a compound, here it's in the form of ions. Okay, so it ionizes, or you call it as dissociate because it breaks down. An alkali will remain as ionic compound or as molecule in absence of water. So let's say I take a solid sodium hydroxide pellet. Pellet means it's just a solid lah, a solid cube like that. If I take that and put on my hand, nothing will happen to my hand. My hand will not burn. Reason is because it's solid. Solid means it's dry. It's a dry sodium hydroxide pellet. If it is dry, absence of water, it remains as just an ionic compound. But the moment I dissolve it in water, what will happen is this water will dissociate them into sodium ion and hydroxide ion. This hydroxide ion is corrosive. It will give all the alkaline property. So if I take a solution, I take a sodium hydroxide solution, meaning got water, I pour it on my hand will burn. Okay, Ken? So let's just recap again. You need to know what does base means, examples of base, but it's a lot of example. So I want you to know just the examples of alkaline. This one must know. Okay, always were asked in objective questions. This is important. And then the explanation. All right. Next, the uses of acid and base. I'll upload a note on uses of acid and base because in your textbook there's no details. So you just read them. Maybe you want to write the notes in your textbook. Go ahead, or you want to write it on your notebook like short notes, anything, as long as you read and you understand. All right. So I'll teach you the calculations and everything in the next lesson.